What's up guys, my name is Ace, and welcome back to another episode of Maps Exposed. This is a series where I break down a map, I show you guys the hotspots, lines of sight, jump spots, or any sort of secrets that I know, as well as the most common spawn points you'll run into in Black Ops 4 multiplayer. In today's episode, we're going to be moving through the list, and I'm going to be covering Contraband. Now keep in mind, I am open to changing up the order in which I do these maps. If you guys have any suggestions for a map you'd like to see in the next episode, make sure you just let me know down in the comment section below. But let's first hop into the hotspots for Contraband. First up, the primary hotspot is typically going to be right in the middle of the map. You've got the two different windows that will often be fighting against each other, plus all of the different pieces of cover throughout the middle area. And if you're ever looking for a fight, this is typically your best bet for finding the action. However, on each side of the map, there are a couple other hotspots that you tend to see fighting against each other. On the jungle side of the map, typically on this piece of cover right here, you will have somebody set up right there. This is one of the more common places you'll see people set up. And also opposite to that, this is typically where you'll see enemies set up trying to challenge those people on the other piece of cover. As for the beach side of the map, typically you're going to have people camping up in this area right here on the edge of the ship. And they'll typically be looking down towards that stone bridge where we have another hotspot where players tend to gravitate towards. So those are the most common hotspots on this map. Now let's move into lines of sight as well as jump spots or any sort of little secret tips that I can give you to help improve your game. First up, towards the beach side of the map, one thing that I see a lot of people doing is if they suspect somebody's in that window or they know somebody's over there, they'll peek around this barrel right here. This is exactly where they expect you to be. Oftentimes they'll be pre-aiming that. A much better way to challenge them is to simply hop up on top of this and just work your way up here, and then you can expose exactly as much of yourself as you want. You can just slowly walk yourself up, and there you go. Excellent line of sight on them, as well as anybody that's on that bridge over there, which, like I said, is a very common hotspot, so you'll be able to pick those people off a lot more effectively than you would if you were just standing on that yellow barrel. This brings us to the next thing, which is not really mind-blowing, but some people may not have considered this. I see a lot of people that swim up to this ladder and then try and climb this ladder and come up here, and that takes forever. You're much better off in this situation to simply jump up here and then jump across to this area right here. Just like that, you're in there very easily. But even better, a lot of times that's where people expect you to be because that's where the ladder is. So they'll be sitting there, they'll be waiting for you, pre-aiming that. What you can do, and a lot of people don't consider this, is simply jump across to here, and now you're shooting these people in the back if they were just sitting here waiting for you to come up that ladder. It's such a minor thing that will actually make a decently big difference anytime you're in this sort of a situation where you have to get up onto this ship. This brings us over to the B domination area right in the middle of the map. If you have enemies that are up in that window, they usually expect you to either challenge from here or be right up on this piece of cover right here. And you're not being unpredictable at all, so they can easily pick you off. One thing that you can do to take them off guard, if you know there's a guy there, and maybe you're confident, maybe you have a teammate set up there, so you're confident nobody's going to be coming in that direction there, you can simply jump up right here. If you're crouched, they can't really see you, but as soon as you stand up, there you go. Easy kill on anybody in that window, and they almost never expect you to be standing up here. Another thing over by the B domination flag right here, and this is specialist specific, if you're using fire break, this is something that's super effective that a lot of people didn't realize. If somebody's trying to capture that B flag from you, you can just swim under here, and even while you're swimming, you can pop the reactor core. This will kill everybody that's in that B flag area. They'll have no idea what hit them, and it's much more effective than doing what you see in like the initial multiplayer trailer where Firebreak slides up to here. That's way more dangerous than simply approaching from the water, coming underneath, and then hitting them with that reactor core. Another thing I wanted to point out in the water area here that it seems like a lot of people haven't realized yet is obviously you've got the ladder over here, and then on the other side there's a ladder to get up there. Some people still don't realize that if you just come up to this area right here, you can very easily just jump and mantle up here. Very, very simple. I often take people off guard as they're trying to like capture the B flag. They'll be looking in this direction and they'll think like, oh, I've got that ladder covered there. We could have that ladder covered there. So nobody can really get to me, but it's super, super easy if you just mantle up like this and pick them off. Another thing you can do from over here that a lot of people haven't considered is you can jump into that window fairly easily from here. You do have to hit the jump just right, but it's not that difficult to do. And oftentimes I'll take out a Torque or something. If a Torque has a shield set up here, he'll be just locking this area down like that, and he won't think that anybody can jump in this window. And it's actually quite easy to do that. I use that move quite often when I'm playing this map. Now, another thing over in this area here, this is really situation specific, but if you have somebody locking down that window there, they're just sitting in that window and they're pre-aiming this spot right here, which is exactly where they expect you to be, a great alternative to challenge them is super, super simple. All you have to do is back up and put your back against this wall right here. you'll be able to see their head over top of that. They don't typically look here. They're going to be focusing their attention right here. So you can just strafe over and pop a shot into their head. They'll have no idea what hit them. One thing to be aware of with this, though, is people can challenge you from this area here, and you are super exposed to them, so you do have to be careful about that. I wouldn't, like, linger in this spot. It's more so if I take a shot, maybe he took a shot at me and he missed, I can just strafe over and get that second shot off really, really easily on him. Now, getting over to this rock feature here by the A domination flag, one spot that you can use, and this is actually really effective when we get into the spawn section as well. Sometimes your spawn gets pushed so that you end up spawning on the beach right here. That means that there's usually enemies that are pushing towards your A flag. What you can do is you can actually climb up this piece of driftwood here, and you can shoot across like that, pick those people off really, really easily. They'll have no clue what hit them if you're shooting them from here. Also, from that same position where you're on top of this piece of wood, you can use this to have a look over top of this rock here and pick people off that are coming around that corner. Pretty situation specific, like you're really limiting yourself in what you're able to see, so I wouldn't recommend just like camping here for a long period of time. But let's just say you know somebody's coming around that corner, you can just get yourself set up here to challenge them, rather than standing out in the open or trying to use cover in some other way. Now, over in this area here, if you have enemies that are camping up in this window, like I said, a lot of times they get a Torque in here with a barricade, and he'll be really locking this area down and camping this out super hard. If you're approaching from this side of the map and you happen to be using battery or you have a frag grenade on your class, frag grenades actually are more effective here. You can throw them right up into that area there. The cluster grenade will break up, and as you can see there, it just exploded right on that spot. That guy will have no clue what hit him if you kill him in that way. Like I said, frag grenades are even better because they don't stick to anything. They'll simply like bounce off that wall and fall down into this area and kill anybody that's standing right here. Now, over on this piece of cover here, like I said, this is a really common hotspot, but I see a lot of people using this wrong. They'll be standing up here using this as cover, and that's like the obvious thing to do. If you crouch, you can't quite see that, but they will be able to see the tip of your head. However, if you crouch and back off slightly, now you cut off a much larger section of your body, and you're an extremely small target to hit at this point. This is the best way to challenge people across the way, not standing up here like this. Another thing you can do, this often works for opening routes or in control. If you're really trying to defend this area here, I believe this is the A area in control, and you're on defense, to challenge the people that are coming through this area, if you crouch right here, you're a very difficult person to see at this point. For anybody that comes through that area there, you'll be able to pick them off super, super easily. I wouldn't linger here for long, though, because they'll find out where you are, and you're a pretty easy kill at that point. It's more so just used for an element of surprise kind of a spot. Just be aware you are super exposed to this area here, so you want to make sure you have teammates that are pushed up and watching that area. So that's pretty much it for the lines of sight and jumps and secret spots that I have for you guys on this map. Nothing that's like too mind-blowing by any means. There wasn't any crazy line of sight that I was able to find. However, I feel all these little things that I shared with you today will help you improve overall when playing Contraband. Now let's get into the spawn points on Contraband. Keep in mind, just like with the first episode, these are the spawn points that apply to most linear team-based game modes, so they don't necessarily apply to like free-for-all, and they won't necessarily apply to hardpoint. But for the standard modes like Team Deathmatch, Domination, Kill Confirmed, Safeguard, as well as Control, these spawn points will apply. So having a look at the primary spawn points here, these are the spawn points you will see 95% of the time, like almost every single spawn you will see within these spawn points. And as you can see here, there's actually quite a few primary spawn locations on this map. They're scattered around on either end of the map. And starting on the C domination side of the map, the main thing you have to know is most of the time they'll just be spawning outside on the beach. However, if you're pushing up towards their spawn and you block those spawns off or you don't see them spawning there, then it will very easily push them into the hut itself right by the C domination flag. I still consider these to be primary spawns though, because you will often spawn there even when there's no pressure put on the spawn. But just be aware of all those different spawn locations over there, and it's kind of a similar story over by the A domination side. There's a big cluster of spawns there, there's a lot of spawn points, so really just try to memorize those spawn points so the next time you push in towards the enemy spawn, you'll know all the possible locations that they could be spawning at. As for the secondary spawns, I wouldn't really say secondary spawns are a big deal on this map by any means, because for most game modes, these spawns are extremely rare. Based on my testing, I saw each of these like once within 100 spawns, so it's very, very rare. But just know, if you spawn at one of these orange spawn locations, that means you definitely have enemy players that are pushed up into your primary spawn areas, and you might want to focus your attention on those players. But that's pretty much it for Contraband. We are going to be wrapping up the episode here. I'd like to know in the comment section below, first off, what are your thoughts on the map Contraband? Personally, I like this map quite a bit. I like how the water plays in with the land play. I like that it's a big enough map that there's typically some room to breathe. However, you're not going to be like way out of the action most of the time. It's pretty easy to get to the action. And just looking at the overall color scheme and the weather and everything like that, I like nice bright maps, so Contraband is a map that I actually enjoy quite a bit. Also, one other thing I'd like to know, like I said at the beginning, is which map would you like me to cover next for this series? If you enjoyed the video, a like rating is always appreciated, and don't forget to subscribe for more if you haven't already. I'll talk to you guys next time.
Yeah.